Welcome to BrotoGP. This is episode number 100. It's still the summer break, and we've got a lot of requests to talk about Moto2 and Moto3. Of course, this episode is brought to you by Riders Law. We got a bunch to talk about. We got a ton of listener questions at the end, so let's get this one going.
Sup, guys? Episode 100. I don't even know how we actually got to this level of number of episodes. People actually listen to us. From our first episode had like 32 people or something. It's pretty dope. Now
I think like it was 12.
Million.
I think it was 12.
Sick. Is that when Trump was on? Donald Trump was on our episode at one point. The guy above me that's referencing some of our first episodes ever is Rob. Say hi, Robert.
What up, Kev? How you doing? Robert, that is the first time you have ever called me Robert on air.
It's stepdad time, Rob. You and I need to talk about some things.
Oh, God.
It's come to my attention. It's come to my attention, Rob.
Yeah.
Son. That on the internet, you appear to be in the credits of several dozen sexual tape style videos. On the internet.
Ooh.
On the World Wide Web, Rob.
I think that's a typo. I think
No.
it was more of a tech tape.
No. I hear people make reference on your Facebook, and your mom sees it, son. She don't like it at all when she sees Rob's sex tape. I don't mind what you do in your personal life, Rob. I don't ask you whether you're gay or whether you're straight. I just tell you, keep what's you to you and what's me to me. All right?
I want to know what my Google footprint is for hashtag Rob's title of Rob's sex tape.
Correct.
I really do. This is probably pretty bad. Kev, who else is on the podcast today?
Speaking of other people on the podcast, we got Ev. Ev came in. Ev, say hello, Ev.
Hi, Kev. How are you? I missed you.
I love you, bro.
Ev, how you feeling?
I'm not feeling great. I pulled my hamstring playing soccer. It fucking blows.
Didn't you warm up with fucking shuttle runs like Jim Carrey in Cable Guy? Don't want to pull a ham?
No, I got there late. I was trying to drop off my rental car. They were closed. So then I was late. Then I was in a hurry. I got dressed on the bench. Just bad recipe, man. Shit happens.
So
Brutal.
this is going to kind of set you back for, soccer and hockey. You still play hockey in the summer?
I'm waiting for the new league to start up over here in Roseville. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Whatever. It'll just follow Kev's advice. It'll heal fast. He knows how to come back.
Can I make a Coach K? I'll put you in, Coach K. Yeah, exactly. Didn't want to pull a hammy in that basketball game in Cable Guy. That movie was crazy, and it was weird, and it was dark. But did you ever notice at the end, he's totally right, and BrotoGP celebrating its 100th episode is exactly what Jim Carrey predicted. Just think about it. Soon, you'll be able to surf the information superhighway from the comfort of your television. You can put something like and play a friend in Mortal Kombat in Vietnam. You can visit the Louvre. The world is your oyster. And he breaks down, like in 1997, what like 2017 was going to be. Everyone literally streaming every source of their entertainment information whatsoever, and that is what enabled Rob in San Diego, me in fucking Sonoma County, and Ev. Where you at now? You're by SAC now, right, Ev?
Carmichael,
and that enabled us to bring this fine show entitled BrotoGP Master Theater.
Master Class Theater.
Please. No, do not say masterclass.
Yes,
we are way better than masterclass.
Rob,
so much better.
We're so much better than masterclass that 6 minutes into this episode, we've neither mentioned our sponsor nor talked about a motorcycle.
And
people
need to know, Rob. People need to know that you really spent like 15 minutes before an episode once trying to figure out something else, the alternative to masterclass, and you couldn't come up with anything.
It didn't work. No, we did actually already mention our sponsor Riders Law because they got in at the very beginning of this episode. I think I said it. Yeah, no, we'll remember things. No, of course, Riders Law. Their banner is behind me. I race for Riders Law in MotoAmerica. They have an amazing contingent of racers in MotoAmerica. They're supporting our sport. If you need legal help, they will support you. If you find yourself kind of at the wrong end of a car on the freeway and you were riding a motorcycle, please give them a call. Actually, I got my first referral the other day because one of my homeboys that races in Wera in club racing. He called me up. He needed some help. He actually was injured on his bicycle, and Riders Law is taking care of him. Yeah.
They don't discriminate 2 wheels, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they like getting referrals because they're the kind of people that refer clients to them. Obviously, there's some like vetting process there, at least slightly, right? If someone is calling me to talk to Riders Law, they're a good person, and Riders Law likes taking care of good people. So yeah, if you need any legal help, especially if you're in the state of California, if they're not in the state of California, definitely call them as well, because there are certain circumstances where they can practice law outside the state of California. But give them a call. They will take care of you. They take care of our sport. They enjoy motorcycling. It's good for everyone.
Only if you're a good person, though. If you're a bad person, eat shit.
Die.
That was not implied by what I said. That was not implied.
Well, kind of was implied.
Bitch, if you guilty.
Don't call size.
Yeah,
this is terrible. This is terrible.
Guilty. Anyway, moving on.
What are we moving on to? What are we moving on to? All right, let's. So this is our Moto2 episode.
Calyx, trellis frames, speed up frames. Fabio Quartararo is distractingly attractive, and a serious lack of awesome mustaches leads us into Moto2.
I thought you were gonna rap. I thought you were gonna rap for a second there. You had a flow going.
He could probably rap about a serious lack of mustaches, but aren't they all like 18? Can we expect them not to have solid mustaches because they're like European adolescent?
Bro, yeah. Because they European, they got solid mustaches when they're like 14. Yeah. Fabio is as French as they come. I guarantee you he was sitting in some shitty coffee shop on Champs-Elysees at 14 talking about like fucking Camus versus Sartre with a massive stash, a huge baguette with a fucking hot dog and cheese stuck in it, and a beret. That dude had a stash when he was 8.
Wait, do the French put hot dogs in baguettes?
What? It's called a lay dog.
What are you talking? It's the dopeness.
What planet are you from?
No, I didn't know this. No, I didn't know this.
Mustard in it?
Other than the beautiful lights, the amazing art, the incredible architecture, and the sense of history, is to get your €2 baguettes full of fucking hot dogs and cheese. Quattro formaggio.
I'm sorry. When I buy baguettes these days, they're from Vietnamese people, but they learned how to make them from the French. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, they taught them. So you buy a baguette, you put a big hole in it.
Yes.
And
go on.
Yeah.
Pour it out. Slide the wiener in it.
Correct.
Put a little bit of mustard on there.
It's good, dude. In France, this is one of the biggest misconceptions about like U.S. cuisine is that like only Americans think like hot dogs are a quintessentially American thing, right? You literally go to any European country and they have hot dogs in some super dope way. Like the hot dogs are just a quintessentially awesome food.
Yeah, we just call it something cooler than a Frankfurter.
I actually did purchase a hot dog slid into a baguette like that at Laguna Seca for lunch one day, and I kind of thought it was American. It was also served to me by a brown person of sorts, so they weren't French at Laguna Seca.
Whoa.
What an American move right there! I thought it was American. It was in a baguette. We had to.
It's quintessential American. I was agreeing with Kev, which I shouldn't do all the time. Makes for better episodes when I don't agree with him. Right. All right, now let's actually get into motorcycle racing here. So we got to talk about the championship contender in Moto2, the championship leader. I'm sorry, in Moto2 first. Peco Bagnaia is leading the Moto2 title. Kev's got his arms up. There it is. There it is. I mean, he's a part of the VR46 crew. He had some flashes of brilliance last year, but really kind of brought it on this season, and he's taking it to all the title challengers that we thought were there. I guess it wasn't entirely unexpected. And then he signs for MotoGP and he keeps winning. This is not something we see all the time. What do you guys think of Peco going on for a mid-season review?
What I think about Peco, I'm going to go. The first 3 things I think are VR46, Riders Academy, Sky VR46, and Valentino Rossi. If I say VR46, and Valentino Rossi in a row on this podcast, guaranteed 50% more listeners. Google knows. They recognize.
Well, I think he'll just appear.
He's now behind you.
Yeah.
Boom.
Is he behind you?
No, I mean Peco. One theme you'll see as we talk about Moto2 and Moto3, particularly this year, is if you rode a Mahindra and you were anywhere even close to competitive on it, you are a straight boss. I mean, BAWS, boss. I mean, that bike apparently required you to override to such a level that you became effectively like a prodigy. Peco, you said that you thought, oh, he dropped down, or that's the classic thing, but he was signed pretty early, as is the trend that we're seeing this year. But he clearly still has the competitive fire. He has a good bike, and he's kind of there to prove something. One of the things that I think that's interesting about the like feeder system with the VR46 is, I wonder if there's less pressure on knowing you'll get to GP because of the level of support you have heading in there. Meaning you can just, I mean, I don't want to say it's nepotism in a sense, because it's not straight up family. It's more of a national, team. But the level of support, I wonder if that just takes a little bit of pressure off you and lets you think about, go ahead and winning that title or staying competitive even after you've signed and sort of achieve the dream of being a MotoGP rider.
I don't think it does, because all we got to do is look at Romano Fenati and maybe Bulaga and kind of see where things can go wrong for VR46. I mean, Bulaga is still on that team, but it really seems like he's not providing the results that they want, and I could see him not getting signed for them and moving up to Moto2 with a different team. So it's almost like it's
Manzi where you move sideways.
They don't give up that fast though, and there's not enough Italians, and it's all about Italians, right? So they'll give him a little bit more time, right? I mean, how many years has he been in? A few?
Oh, too many. No, I mean, I agree, but it's almost, you get the extremes with the VR46. Either you have that crazy support and you're going to make it to GP in like 3 or 4 years, no matter what, or you eventually get tossed, right? The middle ground is Bulaga sticking around for really long, but he's going to get tossed. Like, unless
the Bulaga thing is
interesting.
They had Fenati obviously, and that was all kind of bounced because of they didn't put up with his shit, and he came back to win races on a different team, so they willingly let a race winner go. Stefano Manzi was huge, get a ton of support. I loved his riding style, but he just couldn't put it together, and they definitely bounced him. Same with Andrea Migno in Moto3. So it's like you said. There's a level of, as long as you're performing, which Peco did basically consistently regardless. And I think Peco too, he had a little bit less. He got that VR46 ride in Moto2 off of an amazing Moto3. It wasn't like some of the other guys that went to it didn't get it in that they weren't riding high on something that made them earn that spot as much. You know what I'm saying? Like, like Luca Marini, I mean, it's his half brother. It's all that stuff like that. And there's Stefano Manzi, another one. They have moved some guys laterally from interesting spots. Manzi was one of them. Marini was one of them. They took on support of Franco Morbidelli and things like that. So there's that, but not everyone has the like full dedication. And part of that is that Peco has his little porn stash, and Franco Morbidelli had his luxurious stash. They're letting people know.
Well, Kev, did you shaved your mustache off?
I did. That lasted longer than I expected. It's summertime. Yeah, I am super Italian, so I could grow it back like by the end of this episode.
So, but the other thing I noticed, I haven't followed Moto3 as much, but Bulaga has missed. I mean, he DNF'd or something the first 7 races. So.
Yeah, story of his career, which unfortunately is not working out for him.
Was he hurt?
But no, I'm sorry. Crash? No, he just
we're still on Moto2 right now. We'll get to Moto3.
Yeah, my fault.
You're the one who bounced over. Fault. Don't get on me about that.
I'm not on you. I'm only on you in a good way. I love you, bro.
Woo.
No, yeah, that's my fault. I kind of brought it up there.
Peco is he's perfectly placed. He's on like an ascendant track. He comes from the Mahindra. Moto2, he's fast his first year. The champions and the contenders move up. He takes their place. He kind of, he has the support of the team, which now has multiple years behind, has a year or two in, because we've talked about how hard it is to get into Moto2, even from a team and a mechanical point of view. Peco's kind of placed on that like ascendancy track to continue to like seal the deal, get better and perform. He's not on a downward track. He's not moving laterally. He's following that classic line of like how you get to GP, which is consistently improving yourself the following year. And so he's for me, I'm not surprised at all that he's doing that well. In fact, I expected it pretty right. Yeah, I expected Peco to win this title.
And that's the whole thing. I think that's what Rob was trying to say, and maybe I wasn't picking up on it, is that you're given the best of the best and made the best guy shine, and he's taking that opportunity and running with it. And that's how you really find out who could be a potential GP champion, right? You look at
right,
Marquez,
and how fast they're able to do it. Yeah, Marquez, exactly. Like in 2012, he after having a good breakthrough season, he comes in, he's on the Suter, he's getting massive support, like almost factory style support from Suter, and he takes perfect advantage of it and destroys for winning the title. I think Peco is doing the same thing. He's taking advantage of the Mark VDS team having a poor number 1 rider and then a probably faster but still learning number 2 in Juan Mir.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even talking shit about Alex Marquez.
No,
look, man,
being honest, I didn't say it. It was honest shit talking without.
It's shade. It's definitely throwing shade, but it's shade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
all right, let's use that to transition then. I was going to bring up KTM next.
The only reason Mark that Rob wants to transition so fast is he forgot in our syllabus that's like 30,000 pages long that Pecco Bagnaia was the leader. So he literally says like, okay, we're going to talk about KTM. We're talking about Alex Marquez not doing good. We're going to talk about this, and this. And I'm like, yo, what about the guy who's leading the title and probably going to win and then move to GP next year? Oh, who?
All right, so that is a good segue. So that is a good segue. So I still think Miguel Oliveira is going to win it. He's pretty close, and you guys are saying the next topic is KTM hasn't lived up to the hype, but I think they absolutely are living up to the hype. They're still there in second. Brad Binder just got his first win. Dude, yeah, exactly. That he's rising.
Yes,
he's taking that opportunity. And he's coming up. So,
moving on us.
So here's why I put KTM isn't living up to the hype, because it really seemed like they had such a strong finish in Moto2 last year. I mean, Oliveira won the last 3 races. Like, how do you take that and not just instantly lead the championship in the following season?
Because those were false wins, because Frankie wasn't trying that hard.
Because
no, I'm serious.
Yeah, we can kind of go there.
He had it locked in. He knew he was going to GP. Yeah. Why would you risk it? So it's just like
kind of reminds me of Pedrosa.
When you clinch the playoffs,
in 2003 or in what was that 2012? Again, 2012 when Lorenzo had it all kind of locked up, and then Pedrosa like reeled off 7 wins. But it was like, well, was Jorge really trying? He just knew he had to get second, and it was done. It is kind of strange that he could. Like they could do so well and so dominant and appear to finally find the final piece of the puzzle and then not carry that momentum over. I mean, the only thing I can think of is Kalex really put a lot into this year's frame and chassis, and perhaps, having a team like VR46 with the most hype and most I mean, not most, but equal sponsorship and power and prestige to the Red Bull KTM team. You just wonder if Kalex took that as a shot across the bow and then came strong afterwards.
I mean, that's the kind of speculation that we can't be sure of, right? Like they definitely didn't fit.
You inherently can't be sure of any speculation. That's why it's speculation.
Trust no one.
Trust no. No, I mean, but I do have to wonder, and we're gonna get to this with some listener questions later, right? If Kalex did actually put effort into the final season because the rule changes are coming, right? To me, that tells me that they weren't going to put that much effort into it. But at the same time, everything you just brought up about KTM and Kalex losing their kind of dominance with the class and then being worried about it, that definitely seems like a concern for them. But I mean, to me, one thing that I see too, though, with KTM is they didn't have those pieces to actually win races in the first half of the season. And this first half of the season isn't that much different. Miguel Oliveira has 1 win for the first half here. He's just consistent. Last year they had a bunch of podiums as well in the first half, but they weren't actually able to bring it together. So maybe they're doing a little bit better, but maybe these tracks, like the first half, the mostly European rounds, are favoring Kalex, who has a shit ton of data, more than they're favoring the KTM.
Yeah. Real quick on your frame thing, it's almost like a declining arms race. It's like, we're not going to invest. No, we're not going to invest. Like, no, you don't invest. Okay.
I got a couple of thoughts. One is that, and I'm gonna actually feed into Rob's sort of hatred. Like, I'm gonna let the butt hurt flow through him. You wonder if at what point KTM rose fast, but you quickly reached the limits of the trellis frame versus the limits of the Calyx frame, which is obviously your standard aluminum. So, I mean, because here's the thing. Not only has Calyx gotten better, but Speed Up's gotten better too. Fabio Quartararo, Quattro Formaggio, Hot Dogs Man, is obviously more competitive than Speed Up. I mean, not more ever been, but because they've done really well, obviously, with Andre Iannone and a couple other riders, but certainly come back from the brink and suddenly start winning races, fighting for podiums. There's two things I wonder. I wonder if the limits of the trellis frame are more quickly reached. Like, if they know the trellis frame, they know how to build it. So it goes back to that thing we talked about with the Pareto effect and the 80-20. You wonder if using the trellis gets them that first 80% or a little more, but because they're used to it, they've built it, they've been working on it, Moto3, all this stuff like that, so that they have knowledge. But then that last, in most things, if you just focused on the 80%, you'd be great. But on motorcycling, it's famously the last couple of percent that costs the most, that's the most energy, but that is what wins you races because of the nature of the competitiveness of it. The edge, right. Yeah, you need the edge, exactly. You need the thing that Cougar lost that made him turn in his wings. You have to have that all of the fucking time. Right?
My man.
And so what happens is that trellis frame comes them up quick. And this is pure speculation. And Rob, by speculation, I mean things we talk about that we can't quite confirm.
You mean just so you know what talk about? Means? You mean everything we talk about?
No, I can confirm that my plan for episode 100 was 25 straight minutes of Kevin's Cat Corner featuring Rob and Ev talking about our cats and cat doing cat things and videos of cats. And Rob shut that down.
Who's already had a cat?
Hold on. Rob wants me to swear less. He doesn't want me to talk about cats more. You thought it was sponsors that was going to silence me. It's fucking Rob.
Rob, man. Producer Rob.
Wait. Who's had a cat on this video already? Is it you, Kev, or is it me? Have you been watching? Have you been watching my feed?
Fuck you. Anyways, I was talking about Calyx and frames and all that, but what I'm saying is I had a 2 point there, which was they are using the trellis frame, but also continually to heavily invest in obviously MotoGP, signing Zarco, looking forward to the kind of the next year's like real push, getting rid of fucking Baldley Smith. And you wonder if it's really hard to maintain like
Baldy Smith or Bodley. What was that?
Baldley doesn't keep, it's hard to keep your engineers focused on 3 different classes. You saw at one point their Moto3 teams were struggling mightily when Antonelli rode for them, and he's obviously a quality rider. Yeah. You see different points, and is it time for the Moto2 team to struggle more? Because we've seen Miguel Oliveira come from like 89th on the grid to 3rd, right? Like the guy is a boss, but they're missing that final like ish to put it together.
I mean, Oliveira is very good at back halfing the race. So go ahead, Everett.
Where do he just made an interesting statement that the engineers are dividing their efforts across the 3 classes. Do you, Rob, would you agree with that? And if they are, let's assume they are, do you really think they're putting all their effort into Moto3 and MotoGP?
A lame duck year of Moto2. They moved to Triumph next year.
Exactly. I would actually say 4 classes because we have the Triumph motor coming through. And we know that Calyx has already started developing their chassis for the Triumph. And I got to assume that KTM is doing something similar. They're going to have to change things around quite a bit because that motor is a different weight, different size, different power, dramatically different electronics. And yeah, there are only so many engineers on the planet that can do this stuff. And KTM only has so much money. And we've heard time and time again how heavily they're investing into MotoGP. There's no possible way that that's not detracting from the other classes. I mean, the rules.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question that's not on the syllabus that it just boggles my mind? You talk about there's only this. There's so few engineers that can do this. There's so few software engineers that can do this. There's all this stuff. Why does motorcycle racing have such a brain drain when it comes to who can get the final percents out? I mean, why is it that software engineers are in such demand that we're talking about major multinational corporations will poach them as opposed to just go find them from somewhere else? Or we're talking about
I do want Ev to answer this,
frame technology is so apparently specific that there's only a handful of engineers, and if you lose someone like a Furusawa or whatever, you can or a Gigi, you can literally tank your entire race team. I mean, Aprilia basically lost one man, and look at them now across the whole board.
Wait, how many eyebrows did they lose?
They lost one man, and also but a single eyebrow.
Ev, what do you got? I feel like you know.
So hold on, let me just finish my point real quick, and then I really actually want to hear it. So we're talking about like literally a handful of software engineers. We're talking about crew chiefs that are so important that they will be stolen from team to team, and they will literally tank a team if they leave, or resurrect a team from nowhere to title contender. Why does motorcycle industry have so few of these talents, as opposed to, say, other sports industries, where the level of I suppose what I'd call coach or support staff are not so limited?
So it's a fairly simple answer. It's kind of an economics answer, and it's simple supply and demand. There is way too small of a demand for enough people to supply that skill set. There's not enough people trying to set up Magneti Marelli systems, and there's not enough pay to create that need, right? That if you're a software engineer and you could go work for Intel for 150 or 200K or whatever the going rate is for a world-class software engineer in the private sector or whatever, right? Why would I go be a MotoGP engineer and make 75K or 50K or whatever it is? That's my hypothesis on why there's likely a lack of talent. It's people who, motorcycling and the motorcycle industry as a whole is generally people who love it. They're willing to sacrifice their income to follow and pursue what they love.
Well, and I totally agree there, Ev. And it's not just that though. It's also, it's the expertise that comes along with it, right? Like, I've been writing software for 7 or 8 years now, right? And like Everett suggested, like, you can jump into the field. If you're good, you can make a good amount of money like right away. If I jumped into setting up electronics for MotoGP bikes, I would have to start out on like a MotoAmerica privateer team. I would get paid absolutely nothing. And I'm not like, and I wouldn't be able to, like, say I toughed it out. It would take me 5 to 10 years to build the expertise to be able to move up to MotoGP level, if at all possible. And that whole time I'm sacrificing income. I'm traveling and not, it's just traveling and not getting paid, really. But because there aren't that many people,
traveling and not getting paid really don't go well together.
Yeah, not so much.
Well, let me add to that, Rob. The other piece is that you don't get the Kev, you know this, right? It's when you go spar or fight the right guy, you can't get better unless you get the opportunity to get better with the better riders and the better technologies. And so it's a systematic snowball effect, and only a few people get the exposure to work with those technologies and those teams who can afford those. And so it's this, like, only a few people even get the shot who are willing to sacrifice. Then the guys who did, they still get paid nothing. And so then one place pays them 10 grand more a year or something. I'd love to see how that all worked out, but it's 5 to 10. Tops.
It's the same thing of why we talk shit about like the small chassis manufacturers coming into Moto2. Like, we made a big deal about Joe Roberts being on NTS and how they weren't going to go anywhere, even though NTS has been making chassis for CEV and probably other national championships for a couple of years, but they don't have that expertise to compete at the national level. Like, if I want to go compete in the Olympics for something, you hire an Olympic coach. You don't bring up your high school coach because he's been working with you forever, thinking that he has the expertise to do it. Yeah, like, it's just there's too much limited talent and not enough people have the experience to do it. Like, I think that I could program for MotoGP electronics, but I couldn't do it now. I could do it 10 years from now if I started now and did nothing else.
Is the whole the whole thing is, so what have you done for me lately that you don't normally the way you get good at stuff is through trial and error. We all know that everyone learns through trial and error in general, but that requires lots of error, and no team puts up with lots of error. Right? Like we saw like our homeboy Josh is a perfect example. I was about to say, it comes to Moto2, it's a brand new team to the series, you know what I mean? And they come in, and despite the fact that the way that you would learn is trial and error, the guy only got half the races of trial and error because he made too many errors, he got bounced. And you wonder if at some point the level of turnover causes those top guys never to get competition, because no one is actually given the correct amount of trial and error time to reach them.
We've said it both ways though, right? Like I definitely agree that what you're saying, right? If the turnover is actually reducing the top level, it also goes the other way, right? What am I trying to say here? By teams not taking risk, right? They're also reducing the level because they potentially won't find that Marquez. They don't bring in younger talent, right? Sure, with the alien area and MotoGP, there was almost blatantly, obviously, no one better than those racers, so the talent level probably wasn't going to get any higher. But in the other classes, like you have Alex Marquez sticking around on this amazing ride in Moto2, and he hasn't won a race yet. Right. So would the talent level be higher if that ride was given to someone in a different team, or given to a more promising Moto3 rider? The talent level could be higher up.
Yeah. It's an unknown, because depending on who you give the seat to, could they have capitalized on it equally, right? So, but that's what I was going to say when we were talking about God, what's his face, Moto3. But that's what I was saying.
Bezecchi? Which one?
No. But that's.
Bulaga.
Yeah, Bulaga is Baby Marquez is the Bulaga of that last wave, right? He got afforded every opportunity and didn't make anything of it. To your point, somebody else could have taken that seat. But that's the same thing I've been bitching about in MotoGP for years, right? Danny Pedrosa's finally fucking retiring and opening up that seat.
But look who they give it to, another super established guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, despite the fact they're already winning, you know.
There's a balance there. You got to take enough risk.
I guess what I'm saying is that, like, look, we all know that, like, you know, the dudes who work in motorcycle shops and work for, like, Parts Unlimited or work at track days, we all know those guys. They're all guys who wanted to be around motorcycles and wanted to figure out a way to make some kind of money to do it so they could be around bikes. Yeah. Right. Correct. So, like, the level of, it's like Rob said, or Everett said, the guys that cut, you know, they could work for Intel, they could work for Facebook, they could work for Twitter, right? They could probably write the dopest software around, because they're these crazy, like, you know, on the spectrum dudes with no social engineering whatsoever, but the ability to just write code like a boss. See, that's Rob's problem. He's too handsome. You're too handsome, Rob. If you
were never be a brilliant software engineer,
you won't be a brilliant software engineer because you're too fucking handsome.
Well, and Kev, here's the real irony, right? Is there's those 3 or 4 or 5 who actually have good paying jobs and that are doing it, and then there's the like 20 guys below them that are all chasing that dream, and those seats just are musical chairs of those top 5, just revolving door, and those 20 can't even crack the code. It's the same as GP paddock, right? So it's supply and demand, and then just kind of, you know, position. I don't know. It'd be interesting if they did some kind of a training academy for technicians, like the VR46, but for like.
Oh, Rob just fucking jizzed.
Oh my
God.
God.
Just heard Rob on the air. Actual Rob sex took place on episode 100, and here I thought that episode 100 should have been Kevin's Kitty Corner featuring Ev and Rob. And I thought that if we talked about cats for 25 minutes without explaining anything of what we were doing, it'd be hilarious. How wrong was I? I was so wrong. I didn't know I could be that wrong, because y'all just heard Rob straight jizz in his pants. If you were watching the show, look at him. He went cross-eyed. He bit his top lip. He absolutely did. Rewind the tape. Rewind the tape, guys. Stop here. Whatever it's at.
Bring it back.
36 and 17 seconds. Rewind. Click the bounce, and then just slow-mo it. Don't play it. Hold the mouse over it and drag it super slow. And you just watch the eyes.
It was more in the eyes.
It's gonna be a class.
Please don't make that face again.
College. It's gonna get you 3 units of community college credit.
Only 3? That's terrible. Yeah.
It's an
whatever. It's cheaper that way, right? It's an elective. Oh, man.
It's a good idea.
We're way off topic now, but I guess what the gist.
This is the best topic. Rob's so excited. Real quick on
Rob's actual.
My man bun got higher.
Can I go
episode 100? Actually, Rob's sexting.
Can I do a little MotoAmerica reference on that topic too?
Yes, make it quick.
Can you reference America?
MotoAmerica.
Are you free?
America. Yeah, I think I got a wife in the room. The Josh Herring crash, I know he attributes it to the concrete, but you watch him on that bone stock bike just fucking tear it up, and then he's really trying to figure out that attack racing, and I wonder if they lack a technician because that thing looks fucking dialed up, but they're always talking about how they're working through the electronics. What's up with that, Rob?
That's they lack a technician compared to World Superbike and MotoGP teams, and probably compared to the
Graves Yamaha.
And compared to the top factory teams in MotoAmerica. I don't know who their electronics technician is. I know that Richard Samboli has a lot of experience with electronics. So with MotoAmerica, the electronics rules are quite open. There's no spec hardware, of course. They have a price cap, and they have a limitation cap as far as like number of channels, if I'm not mistaken. But because of all that, it's impossible to know what the factory teams are running, what the satellite or what the privateer teams are running. They can have anything they want, and they either make it work or they don't, right? We don't know if Josh Herring is struggling because of the electronics. He complained about it way more last year on a different team that had far less expertise, and he seems to be going pretty good this year with a bunch of podiums.
I agree. I mean, I just minor observation.
Yeah, and those concrete patches at Miller that he was talking about, those were nuts. The first practice session, you'd run over them and both tires would slide. Like, you just hope you'd see the person in front of you run over one of them and just a huge puff of concrete dust. It was terrible.
I saw some of those guys avoiding those on purpose just so they wouldn't put themselves at risk.
The crash that he talked about was in turn 14, the same corner that I crashed in, unfortunately. And you couldn't really avoid it there. And then there's another witchcraft, like one of the fastest corners on track. You couldn't avoid it either. You just had to run straight over it. But his massively famous high side wasn't even in that corner. It was exiting turn 3, if I'm not mistaken, in between 3 and 4 on the curbing. That had nothing to do with the concrete. It was just, he just didn't have the grip. It's terrible. All right, Kev is on his phone. He's getting bored. Let's go back over
yourself. No, I was checking the Moto2. I was just keeping track of. Well, you can't see that, but that's the Moto2 calendar. Just double checking to make sure I say the right things. Y'all love when I say the wrong things on accident, or if we accidentally show a GP10 instead of a GP9. We're fucking just talking about the fact that it's only red. Calm the fuck down.
No, it was a GP10. I just called it a GP11, which is what they got us on.
Whatever. It was red as fuck. It was so red, and that's all that mattered.
I think we left off at AM doing his thing, which I really don't think he is doing his thing because he's losing. But
no, that's his thing.
No, I mean, the greatest story for me.
Okay.
And I'm inspired now. Look, I'm inspired. I'm ready. I'm sitting up, motherfuckers.
You got a cat? You got a cat? You got a cat?
I don't have a cat, but I have a $4 bottle of wine, and it's fucking amazing. I'm that far through it. The biggest story for me, I don't know where Rob is so uninterested when I have to say he just straight left. Oh, he brought a cat. Kevin's cat corner is here. Tell us about the cat, Rob. What's her name?
This is Pearl.
Pearl.
She's okay with being on camera in baby position. Oh, I should probably be closer to the microphone.
No, you sounded good too. What I liked about it, Rob, was your voice changed. It went into your dad voice. You were so proud. You're like Ev when Madison does real good at gymnastics or wins like her first hockey game. He just fucking beaming with pride. You know what I'm saying? And then Rob's just like, this is my cat. She's perfectly fine with being upside down. She's the best.
He has a little lisp.
That's terrible.
Kev.
Right.
Now I have that infamous cat hair all over
how
my
Honda
shirt.
talks about Alex Marquez, except for the fact that he doesn't even like, oh my god, he got second place for the 90th time. It doesn't even like matter that he wins a race because he's just so cute. I like all his fans are like 17-year-old girls from Europe, and it's just like, God, he's so cute because like he has no facial hair and he still looks like he's 12 and I'm 15, so that's still hot to me. Yeah.
Oh boy, I don't even know what to do with that.
It's a little.
That's pretty bad. Okay, moving on.
What?
Yeah. So has any Spanish winner won in Moto2? Has there been any Spanish winner in Moto2 this year? What's up with your boy Joan Mir then? He hasn't put it together yet.
He will.
Tony.
I think he's. What's up with him? See, that's the thing about expectations, right? Like, you're surprised that he hasn't won a race in the first half of the season in his first year in Moto2. What level of riders have done that? I think he'll win a race.
That's hard. Yeah, and end of the year when everyone else has moved on.
By the way, I don't care that teenage girls hate riders. In fact, I think it's dope. And Ev and I have talked about this a number of times. You actually want riders that connect to every generation, group of people, and demographic as a whole. So that Alex Marquez fits that demographic is not a bad thing. It's actually titanically a good thing for the health of the sport overall.
Whose demographic is Mattia Passini covering?
Right. Me. Dudes who are like a little, right? Me and you. Guys who are a little past our prime, who still think we got it if we just had, like, if our high school coach had, that guy fucking hated us. If he hadn't hated us, I'd be in the NBA. You'd be playing for the Sharks. Mattia Passini is pulling it down for all the middle-aged, 3 years past their prime dudes who knew if they just got the right ride at the right time, our hands don't work right, we get a little arthritis, but we can win a race. Fuck it.
Ironically, I pulled my hamstring tonight playing soccer, and I should have played college soccer, but I had a coach that fucked me over.
Fuck that guy.
God damn it! Man? You brought it way too close to home there, Kev. Yeah, you're bringing. We can't deb our own episode on this one.
First of all,
it's a long story.
That's who Mattia Passini is. Look at that. Mattia Passini connects to Ab on a visceral level.
He's my spirit animal.
He's his fucking spirit animal in Moto2. He's the everyman.
No, let's get back to Marquez and Mir here. Wait, what?
Yeah, he won the
second race. Mir is the talent that we thought he was. He dominated Moto3. Yeah. He had a record-breaking season. He moves up to Moto2, and he's quick out the gate. He does very well. A class is notoriously hard to adapt to. So Mir, for me, is the real deal. He's not much different than what Peco did in his first year, except Peco was on a slightly less experienced team, whereas Mir came on, obviously, to a good, well-established team who has Moto2 dialed in. I think Mir's going to win multiple races this season. For real. I think he wins 2 races.
The bet. It's not does he win 1, it's does he win 2 or more.
Does he win more than 1? Right.
Because he's got 2/3 and he just got second at the ring. So
bro, he's
sniffing. He's sniffing.
Right.
Smell my finger, Kev. Smell my finger.
Yeah, exactly. I will smell it. He's got that ish. He's really like you've said this before, Rob. Like, you have to win a race in your first year or podium in your first 8 races if you're going to be fast. If you don't, it's done. Like, you're never going to GP. It's just never going to happen. Like, unless you're fucking Fabio Quartararo, right?
But Agusta and Marquez,
who does have more wins than Joan Mir?
Right. So, but Marquez, yeah, exactly. Who has more wins, right? But not in his rookie year. You know, not the level of adaptation. What was that noise? Oh, that's like a fucking thing. What I'm saying is that I think Mir is going to win multiple races this year because I think that how quickly he got good and how well he adapted, it's not a linear line, right? Like, getting good at racing is not linear. Does not talent plus experience equals this. Sometimes you have an ability to adapt or to fast forward. Mir is on an incredibly strong inverted bell curve. I think he's going to win races.
I'm gonna bait you a little bit for this question. So if Mir gets the first Spanish win and potentially the only Spanish wins in Moto2 this season, does that make him far more qualified for the GP seat than Alex Marquez, especially since Mir is already signed for Suzuki?
You could bait me, but I will bait you, for I am above all baiters, the master of them, the masturbator. Yes.
Hey, there are children listening.
Kev, let's see how big those forearms are.
My forearms?
The baiter.
Because I'm baiting. Yeah, exactly. Go away, baiting. Go away, baiting.
You didn't even get it. That was so good.
Exactly. I want to answer Rob's question for real. Then Ev, I want to turn it over to you, okay? Because if Johan Mir wins a race or two this season, yes, it makes him more qualified. Here's why. Look at Luthi in Moto2 or MotoGP now, as someone who took a long time to eventually become competitive and eventually it's not about how good you are that season. It's about your overall trajectory, like I was saying. If Mir is able to podium and then fall up the second half of the season with wins, it shows his ability to adapt, and his outright raw speed is faster. Like Alex Marquez,
it's talent.
Right. It's talent. Exactly. It shows that Mir is simply more talented because he can overcome what comes with being a rookie, adapting to not only tracks but new bikes, new technicians, new team, and all of that stuff. Because Mir rode for a completely different team and he moved to a whole new series of people. The ability to adapt is more important, as Valentino has showed why his career is so long and why he's outlasting all his contemporaries from his prime. The ability to adapt is paramount, and Alex Marquez finally started winning and doing well when his generation completely moved on. Miller moved on, and Zarco moved on. Like Lowe's, like people. Not only did his generation leave, but they left in such large numbers that there's like a joke conspiracy that Honda was secretly buying these dudes off or moving them to shitty teams simply to give Alex Marquez the chance to win. And people will honestly...
It might not be wrong that Marquez was in that like 3-4 way battle in the Moto3 championship. Like it's just
you're talking about
they've
Alex
all surpassed him. Yeah,
they've all moved on. He's the only one. So he was the shittiest member of that group. You know what I mean? He's Hawkeye. No one likes Hawkeye.
This was supposed to be his year too, man.
I mean,
Hawkeyes or Marquez?
Yeah. This was supposed to be his year. This was supposed to be Marquez versus KTM, but here's Peco, here's Binder, here's the VR46 team taking over. Alex Marquez simply doesn't have that tangible it. Like, we wouldn't even be talking about him if it wasn't for his fucking brother, who does have it.
He wouldn't.
That's probably true.
He wouldn't hit. Yeah, well, he wouldn't even be in the position he'd be in.
Yes, because would he even be the Moto3 champion if he wasn't given, the KTM killer created Honda that was sold at a loss to bypass the rules, that they made specifically for that reason? You know what I mean? Like, if he wasn't given the perfect opportunity, but look what you see all the other guys who didn't quite have that opportunity and overrode did. They're much better. Maverick was on a lesser team, and Peco was on a lesser team. Oliveira in Moto2 was on a lesser team with that shitty Leopard little adventure in a Moto2. Alex Marquez has been given every opportunity he possibly could, and I think it's actually retarded his development a little bit. Like, his timing is back from what other guys are. You know what I mean?
Well, he's on the best, arguably the best bike, other than the KTM maybe, but he's still not getting it done. So it's clearly he's on the decline, and that's not a good thing.
Not a good thing if you're Moto2.
You're already giving him the decline. Really, Ev?
Yeah, this dude, he's peaked. It's over. Yeah. Would you sign him?
Damn.
If you're fucking factory Yamaha or factory Honda, are you signing him? I'm not.
Oh, not in GP, but if I was any Moto2 team and he was looking for a spot, I would definitely.
He's gonna be looking for a spot pretty soon, other than his name. It's the only thing.
Right, and by losing Mark VDS, Honda, and by losing any actual kind of farm team, they've lost that ability to kind of play that hand.
I forgot.
You know what I'm saying? Like, by Mark VDS leaving and the SIC racing team, Sepang National Circuit, they sort of stole Franco Morbidelli from the Honda crew. Hold on, I'll let you get in a second. But what Honda has, what like Repsol and Estrella Galicia and all that has lost is the ability to kind of shoehorn in, because you couldn't have complained about Alex Marquez getting the Mark VDS ride. I mean, Luthi got it, Morbidelli got it.
I'd still complain.
Okay, but I suppose yes, but I suppose the complaint would be slightly less warranted than, say, if you moved him to Repsol.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
Right.
Sure.
Like, that's a safe place to put him, especially if you were to have like a larger talent in the number 1 spot. You could say, look, we're giving him a chance.
That's what's really crazy, though. I mean, slight tangent. I mean, when are we going to see? When are we going to? No, real quick. When are we going to see one of these kids get the fucking real ride? Like, instead of putting them into the fucking second, third tier team, hoping they rise up. Like, that's bullshit, man. We want to see some fucking new talent.
Maverick's on a real ride, and he was one of those.
He still kind of
one of the little kids in Moto3.
He had to come around still, technically. But
yes, he had to go through Suzuki to prove himself on Suzuki.
That was work.
Can I bring up something? Ev, you put me on something I really have wanted to talk about for a long time and never really found a way to like shoehorn it in. Fuck. It's not a small topic, Rob.
We gotta. All right, we might be scratching Moto3 then.
Okay, let me just bring this up. So like when Valentino Rossi was dominating, right? We referred to it as like the Rossi effect, or they refer to it like the Jordan effect in basketball, right? Like Jordan made guys like Kobe and LeBron happen, right? Because they emulated him. He was so dominant. Every team, every group knew that had. Look at him distracting me with cats. God damn it! That's how he's short. He's getting me off my game.
Rob. He's over it. Yeah. But go.
Okay.
No, I'm with you. Go.
Right. So Valentino Rossi exists. They know they can't beat him, and they sort of force your Danny Pedrosas, your Casey Stoners, your Tony Elias's. They bring a whole new crop of riders up. They change to 800cc. They shrink the rider height by a certain degree. They try to manufacture a kind of ride, right? And you see a lot of these guys, Lorenzo, Stoner, Pedrosa, all move on to obviously titanic successes. And you're seeing Marc Marquez's effect now, which is the desperate attempt to lock up that transcendent talent earlier and earlier and earlier. You're seeing every single team create farm teams all the way up. You're seeing guys like Joan Mir getting a 2-year contract with a 3rd year with David Burvio, specifically saying that, we've learned from the mistake of Maverick basically being poached, and we're not going to let it happen again. I'll get to my point in a second. Oliveira moving to the KTM. You see Zarco going to the KTM. You see Peco going to the Pramac team. What I'm bringing up is the Marquez effect is actually accidentally inverse. By obsessing over finding that next talent too soon, all those guys are moving to shitty rides. Marquez next year is going to face what we would think are some cream of the crop talents. Miguel Oliveira, we thought he was the man for a couple years now. Jack Miller, we thought was the man. Pekka Bagnaia, obviously, we also think that. You see, like, what I'm saying is, and Joan Mir, potentially transcendent talent, breaks the record for race wins and points on that Moto3, moves up as instantly fast. But what we're seeing is all of these guys who are potentially the guy are getting locked up on shitty teams.
It's you're gonna like this. You're gonna like this, Kev. The analogy is take any of your sci-fi comic book movies where they try and combat the evil thing, and the more you attack it, the thing just takes the bullets or the missiles and it swallows them and it gets bigger. And then it's like, all right, now it's even bigger. Now it's bigger. And it just spits out all that shit. And it's like, keep throwing it at me. I only get stronger, right? Because that's what's happening, right? They're just throwing people who don't have the experience or the talent at Marquez.
Because they're trying to get it too fast. They're trying to get it before it's ready.
Yeah.
It's kind of also a consequence of the remnants of the Alien era, though, because there were specifically riders that were more talented than the rest of the field, and no one can beat them. Like the era before that, you had quality satellite Honda rides where Marco Melandri would win races, and it just it all came together with the Aliens, with the 800cc era, and now with Marquez kind of continuing the trend. And it's putting good talent on bikes that may not be ready. But Peco is a different story, though, because that progression is there, right? He's signed to Ducati. He's going to be riding last year's bike at Pramac, but the factory.
He already lost.
No, he did for the year. But if he does anywhere close to as good as Jack Miller, who will be riding the factory bike, the GP19 next year, Peco is in line for that seat, which is then in line for the factory ride. So he's already lost the first season and maybe the second one, but the transition is there. No one else has, like everyone else claims to have the farm team, but how many riders moved up from Tech 3 to factory Yamaha? Just one.
It's in your mind, though, man. You got to put that guy on the ride from day one and make him think he's the man. And putting him on that satellite and making him prove himself, you've already diminished his mentality. Like I think that's
probably
here.
true.
If we know that racing is 90% mental, but we tell a guy your parts aren't as good as your teammates.
Yeah, or you're not good enough to go straight to the factory team. You're not Marquez. You can't sign for Repsol Honda.
It's like a thoroughbred horse, right?
Looking at Peco this year, last year to this year, I think Ducati has made a massive error in not signing him directly to the factory squad.
Yeah, Petrucci should not be getting that ride.
Petrucci should. If I were to look at Peco, he has more upside.
No fucking way.
They didn't actually know that they had the factory seat open when Peco signed for Pramac. So
doesn't
it
matter.
was kind of a bad timing.
Well, that's
there.
the problem that goes back to what I said, Rob, which is the attempt to lock these guys up earlier and earlier. I'm not just talking about in age or experience, but also in the season. Mm-hmm. They had Peco locked up so early that for me, if you were Ducati and you would think, wow, because look at what happens when you move these guys up to direct factory squads. They do really well. And do you really want to put Peco on a Pramac team with subpar equipment and subpar technicians and then have him have to hopefully figure out how to override it? Or do you want to give him the best of everything right away?
Yeah, you don't take the thoroughbred horse and go flog him around for a little while and let him break his back doing shit and fucking crashing, trying to ride over his head. You give him the best goddamn opportunity to go out there and be a champion. And I think that's the flaw in the politics of the series right now. Take away all the backmarker guys, whatever. I mean, even the talent that could be making the series better, they're not doing that. And that's the observation right now.
I mean, and it has been going on for a while too. Simoncelli got the same exact shtick. He was signed really early, not to a factory team, and had to endure kind of slight rev limits, and then maybe he'd get the electronics upgrade.
If you go back to Simoncelli, you look at his first year when people loved him for who he was, but not his outright speed yet. It was bad. His first couple of races, I remember him being on Barf and to throw it way back in episode 100 and talking with guys being fuck, Simoncelli finally scored a point. Dope.
You mean a 250?
You know what I mean? Right, he finally did well on that Grassini Honda, right? And Marco Melandri had the initial factory team. And when Simoncelli got the factory electronics and kind of the full factory bike, he said it was so different. He basically had to unlearn everything that he learned. And that was actually a huge reason for a lot of his crashes was the factory software was so different, so titanically different and advanced that some of the things that he learned on the initial software, he had to unlearn. And if we go to how humans learn, right? Especially adults, how once you're past 2, 3, 4, and your brain is kind of wrinkled into where it's going to be, you're talking about between 3,000 and 5,000 reps to create muscle memory. But you're talking about, and muscle memory is, literally when it comes to electronics, you're talking about how literally knowing on lap 3, lap 3, turn 6, you have this much slightly less fuel or more TC, and your muscle memory computes it offhand. But it takes between 15 and 20,000 reps to unlearn muscle memory. And I just wonder if you're talking about guys like Zarco and Peco, moving to teams and actually maybe learning bad habits before they move to the factory squads. Like, I guess I hate the idea of seeing guys like Peco and Oliveira and Binder and Mir, who I think are the aliens potentially of their time, or at least race winners of their time, being stuck on teams that I just simply know are not going to challenge. Suzuki is not going to challenge. Pramac Ducati is not going to challenge.
No. And Suzuki's going to lose their concessions anyway, too. So
which means that they have to unlearn to an extent what they've learned.
So here's the question: who is the last Moto2 rider to go directly from their seat to a factory Yamaha, Honda, or Ducati?
Besides Marquez?
Yeah, I think it was Marquez.
No, actually he's probably the only one.
The only one, right. So but what you would see
right there.
And that's exactly what Ev is saying, because what you would see is before then you saw that happen more often. You saw yesterday was his birthday, God rest his soul. But Nicky Hayden's birthday.
Random aside, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Nicky Hayden's birthday coincides with the death of my father, so it's a very strange day for me. Yeah, super weird. Sorry to throw that out there.
Sorry, Kev.
That's okay. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But it's a tough day. But people live life and move on, and that's kind of how it goes. But I guess what I was saying is, I lost my train of thought there, is that you saw Lorenzo move to factory Yamaha. You saw Danny Pedrosa move to Honda. You saw but Nicky Hayden at the time, Superbike champion, moved direct. So promising young stars move to the factory teams right away. And I guess I see that slightly less right now. And it's because they're being snatched up by those teams, hoping to catch lightning in the bottle.
Well, and I forgot they made the rookie rule, but then they canceled the rookie rule, right? So technically
it didn't matter.
Happen. Yeah.
The only one it affected was Ben Spies, right?
Yeah, it was the only guy.
No, I actually disagree. The only person that the rookie rule affected was Simoncelli.
It was one of those two. We could make the argument either way.
There's some talk of Ben Spies in the Eurocentric. Go ahead. Yep, go ahead. You're fine. You got it. I'm good.
No, we're not going to get into it. Let's move on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's a good one. People don't know about that.
Wait, what? People don't know about what? No, we're fucked. Yeah, we're moving. No, we're moving on here.
Okay,
we're moving on. Let's. We already did some cat commentary. We already talked about BrotoGP46.
We're getting all those fucking hashtags.
Do you guys want to talk about Balda and Fabio?
1 second. I guess what I'm saying is Moto2 right now, I'm actually watching Moto2 a lot more than usual. I really am. And I was stoked to do this episode because I got lots of thoughts on Moto2. The idea that finally the Spanish Armada has sort of like been defeated or at least pushed back a little bit. And we see rising stars from different areas. That's great. There's a million things I could talk about Moto2, but I guess for me, I watch Moto2 and I see all these riders that I'm like emotionally invested in that I've seen long term. We've talked about Peco. We can go on and on about Fabio, sort of like Phoenix, like Rise, all this stuff. But I guess I see all of the guys who I'm invested in long term this season, and I wonder, like, fuck all of this stuff and all this excitement, and it's all for naught because of where they're going.
Nowhere.
Oh, now you really just debbed the whole Moto2 episode.
It would be so
sorry. Talking about my dead dad apparently didn't down it enough. But if I talk about the fact that Johan Mir goes to Suzuki, Rob is fucking shedding the tears, son.
That's fucked up.
I'm sorry, Kev. Goddamn.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm just giving you a hard time, Rob. I'm just giving you a hard time.
There's only so
many. Good job.
There's only so many chairs in the musical chairs game of MotoGP, right? I mean, it would be nice to see 2 or 3 of these guys going up at a time, but the problem is the series wants the stability of the names that the fans can recognize and the casual fans, right? Because that's why the same 10 guys are in the same 10 seats generally.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, we finally do have 2 or 3 going up at the same time, and it's now happened 2-3 years in a row, right? Who is it this year? It's Fabio, Oliveira, Peco, and Mir, right? We got 4, and we're finally losing. I believe we're losing Bautista.
You like laugh.
Hopefully losing Bautista. Carl, Who else is gone? There are people that I don't really care to talk about because I've wanted them gone for Baldy. I've wanted them gone for a while.
Redding's the big question mark. Just kind of.
And I like Smith too, talking shit. He had an article that came out, or it wasn't really an article, but it was like a snippet from an interview talking about everyone was trying to get the next Marquez. And I'm like, bro, if Dovizioso was saying that, it would ring more. Like, you suck, bro. You weren't even good in Moto2.
Like, he got signed before he could even make it.
He got 3 podiums for the Tech 3 team 1 year. And maybe Herb and his wife were fighting. He hadn't got some in a while. And that was like the only excitement he had in his life. And he signed that guy to like an 8-year contract in GP off of a couple of seconds. Like, shut the fuck up. Of all the people to complain about it.
It was a dumb Jack Miller-esque move. Like, hey, we're going to sign him early and sign him long.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, imagine, like, it would make more sense if Jorge said it, right? If Jorge's like, yo, Suzuki signed Johan Mir over me. I beat Marquez for a title. I'm actually the only one to do it. What the fuck? Everyone's just trying to get the next Marquez. But Bradley Smith, Mr. 2 podiums, 1 in the rain, where he shared it with Scott Redding, is like, everyone's trying to get the next Marquez. It's bullshit. I'm in Moto2 because in 2011, I got a couple of race wins, a couple of podiums.
His technical feedback is so good, though, Kevin. Okay? Do not take that away.
This is
inversely proportional to his hairline.
I do not believe his technical feedback is good at all. I simply believe he explains a lot of woo when he does it. Like, you know how I will totally blow your mind and say some shit and then later be like, I made that all up. I just spoke really well as I said the made up shit. Like 80% of
I know what it is.
Don't tell everyone your secrets.
Bradley Smith is a politician. The fact that he speaks well while saying nothing, honey, pots the fuck out of you.
That's it. He's British and he's so well spoken, and they don't speak English in the paddock generally. So, you know, he sounds very credible.
No, I'm sure he's a big selling point for Dorna because his interviews are usually pretty solid, and like having him on camera as long as he's wearing a hat is perfectly fine.
He'd make a hell of a broadcaster.
Right.
He's going to be an amazing broadcaster, and I will take him for 20 years over Nick Harris any day.
In MotoGP season 2021, when me and Bradley Smith are broadcasters, and while I'm up in Dorna talking like totally normal, Ev and Rob are going to text you. Remember when you called him Baldly Smith on episode 100? You fucking hate that guy, and you're acting like you're his friend.
You're going to flick him in the nuts and fuck with him on camera.
Bam! Turtle tap, son. Wow.
Dorna I'll be in pit lane doing the tire talk, and Dorna will lose their shit instantly. It'll be great.
Right.
Bradley Smith, that'd be a good person alongside you.
What I'm saying is
that's like that in the year 2000.
Not necessarily be speaking like that the topic, that what the subject is being spoken about.
Well, and the other thing is we've found out more and more over the years that Yamaha, that Tech 3 specifically, does absolutely no development. So,
right.
What's development?
Yeah, what's development if you're on a satellite bike?
That's what Dovey said when his his accountant in 2013 said, "Yo, dog, why are you spending 40 grand to buy your own brakes?
Calipers.
What's development?"
Well, I need this development thing. I want to be a factory rider. Hey, it paid off.
It worked out. Yeah, the best way to go to factory Ducati is sign for Tech 3.
Still underpaid. Still underpaid.
Yeah. No, let's move on. So we already talked about Fabio. I feel like we've run out of time to talk about Balda, but not
I'm
Baldi.
looking at the syllabus.
Balda.
We got cat commentary right there. Cat commentary.
I already did cat commentary.
Can I talk about Balda for a second?
Yeah, let's talk about Baldassari.
So what you're seeing right now, and again, the number one story for Moto2 for me is the fact that no Spanish rider has won a race yet. And if you look back at the series of the intermediate class, that's obviously somewhat of a rarity, and there's generational shifts. I think we're seeing that, but we're seeing that as a result of the specific and sustained focus by the VR46 Academy.
Big words.
VR46 Academy, Sky VR46, Valentino Rossi. Woo!
Cat. Theme of the episode.
Baldassari is another example of that. So what they're able to do is two things. They're able to bring up young talent and then also train existing talent to take it like that one step required to be like on the spectrum, on the level of being racers to be competitive. You're not necessarily going to get to MotoGP, but you're going to help. Like Baldassarri is a solid left tackle in football, right? He's a solid left tackle. He's a decent cornerback. He's going to make a good play when you need it, and it's going to come on the Jumbotron, but he's not like the star of the team. But what he does is he takes away the chance for that other shitty Spanish rider to finally seal the deal. He is running interference. He's running the screen pass. It's a screen pass.
So offensive left tackles are like the highest paid guys in the NFL. They protect you from the blind side.
That's what I'm saying. They're protecting Peco from the blind side.
So what you're saying is Repsol's going to sign him to their satellite team just to prevent him from doing anything better?
I mean, that's
what you're saying?
That's
classic Repsol.
That's Repsol's plan. Is they realize they're like, fuck Mark VDS. We don't even care. We don't need a feeder team because we will just steal your champion, son.
Just troll their billionaire fucking satellite team. That's so great.
Right.
I wonder if they even took advantage of that beer sponsor. I hope they did. They probably did.
They usually have kegs and stuff, I think, but it's kind of lame.
All right, no, all right. I think we covered Moto2 enough there. I'm interested to see what Balda's going to do next year. And Fabio's gone. It's just Balda and Marquez and who else in Moto2? Should we do predictions? No.
Binder's going to win.
Yeah, I mean, depending on KTM's level of development, who gets it right. Although I will say, if I were to look at Moto2 next year with the Triumph motor and think who gets it right, it's got KTM's level of investment. I think is the ability to get it right is higher. I'm going to bet on KTM, even though this year not so much. I think the lame duck year threw everything off, and I think if I were to look at the lame duck year, I see a year like 2006. Where KLX is putting a ton of effort into it, whereas Yamaha and other teams are moving off. Like in terms of the 2006 reference, you end up getting the Honda victory there. But I think
that's the thing, though, is because it's not just the motor and the new chassis; it's also the electronics. The chassis might not mean shit, right? If you could take an amazing chassis and you put terrible electronics on it with a bad tune, and they're going to go slow.
It's who figures it out, yeah.
But and to your point, Kev, the KTM is a factory team with experience with high level electronics. So if they bring over a technician from GP,
so that's the kind of semi obvious answer. But when you think about it, they're going to double down even harder in GP because they got all these new guys they signed in the second team.
Yeah, that's true. They do have 4 bikes up there now, so they may not have the expertise to.
They got a real fucking problem on their hands.
Talent. Hey, KTM, I'm available. I will.
He's taking a class at community college. He's available.
Oh man! All right, Kev's back on his phone. God, we're moving back over to Moto3. We already talked a little bit about Moto3. We're gonna make this real quick. Can we what?
By claiming we're gonna make it real quick is to basically claim that it's
he's gonna talk about tires.
Right? No, it's a claim that it's not worth talking about. I don't like that. You're telling people to tune out. That ain't balling, Rob. They ain't balling.
I'm not real excited about Canet or Bastiani. And there's a lot of crashes.
God, more Deb. Okay. Here, I'm just gonna read you off our syllabus then. So the top 2 guys rode for Mahindra a little while ago. That was kind of a cool talking point.
Just like I said.
Just like Kev already said that one. Martin is kind of picking up where he left off. And with other title challengers bouncing and moving up, he's winning races. There have been a bunch of crashes. He has a ton of DNFs, which is making the title kind of close.
Cool.
But Bezecchi is a part of VR46, Valentino Rossi Sky VR46, VR46 Academy.
I just like his last name. That's fucking a great name.
Yeah. Can I bring up an interesting topic regarding Moto3? So we talked about doing a Moto2 episode, Moto3 episode.
Quick question. Is the mic on your nuts?
Yes. So that's my nuts. That's the snowball. Me
and Rob have it by our face. It's so good.
Right. I used to be huge on Moto3. It was the best race of the weekend. It was fucking amazing. But for some reason, I've lost my boner for Moto3. Like more than I expected. I'm not sure what it is about race weekends, but I feel like lately I'm a little less jazzed on the race weekends than usual. And I guess the race weekends that I woke up fucking jazzed, I'm like, I'm gonna watch Moto3 and I'm not gonna look at spoilers for shit. I'm gonna watch Moto2. I'm gonna even if I'm watching it not live, if I'm watching it tape delay, I wake up on the West Coast, where as late as it gets, sort of like Japan and shit. Like, I'm going to watch the whole thing like it's live. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to fucking tweet about it or I'm going to post about it. But I find myself waking up and clicking on Moto2 for a minute and then going to MotoGP right away. There's a thing about this season that has me less jazzed than normal. And I guess normally in Moto3, I was the most stoked because it was fucking nuts. But I feel like this is a weird year where I don't have a connection to the story of Moto3 in the same way that I did before. I used to have that story. There was it was almost in a weird way that Moto3, you felt like you knew the riders, knew the story, knew
that's easy.
More than Moto2. Moto2 felt like the journeyman class, a bunch of old dudes. No one cared. It was the filler. It's when you went and got popcorn or made your breakfast if you're on the West Coast and shit. But now I don't have that. Moto2 has those people I'm interested in, but Moto3, I have a weird lack of connection to that series this year. Specifically.
It's too many new names too fast. Like Rob was saying, we had 4 guys last year, 4 guys again. They're funneling the feeders up. But I think it's a good thing, but I agree. You get just distant from the series not having those names, and that's why they're worried about that at the GP level, right? If you set sail on Rossi and Lorenzo and Vinales and all the big names, then who do you have to recognize? And then you lack the connection. So it's happening to you in Moto3. It's unfortunate, but
it's kind of the rhythm of motorcycle racing, though, right? Moto3 was really popular because we knew the guys, we were connected to them. They move up to Moto2. Now Moto2 is more popular. The names that are in Moto3 right now, they stick around for another year, and they are now more popular next year because we know about them. We have more of a connection. It's that cycle happens every single season. It's a bigger swing. Kev.
I was just going to say, even the problem, I suppose, is if you look at Moto3 this year, and this is what you said about Bezzecchi and Martin, they came from Mahindra, right? You see these riders talking about come from Mahindra. So what you're seeing, when you look at the guys we care about right now in Moto2, even when you get back to your Fabios, they had so much buzz. They came in hot as fuck from CEV. Buluga's another example, right? Or Peco was riding high Mahindra and moving up. It feels like this year the guys who are doing really well in Moto3 are those journeyman guys who I'm just not quite connect. And Bezzecchi's not really even a journeyman, right? He just didn't have a good ride yet. It's like he's been sticking around forever. He's obviously younger than hell. All those guys are. But there's a level of disconnect I have with the Moto3 riders this year that it's kind of weird, I guess. I don't know. There's probably a number of factors that keep me, but
it's spot on, man. Most of the names are foreign. I mean, not foreign, not not recognized, right? That was awesome. Where's that fucking bourbon? Okay,
right. The names are they don't have our connection yet to them. They have.
Well, it's that the expectations. The expectations, like Kev was saying, they're not exciting. Right, the Bulaga train. I was firmly on the Bulaga hype train when he came in. I kind of just ate into the VR46, the whole deal.
I ate into the V title of Rob's sex tape,
and then we got nothing out of it. And now he's just no. You got to smirk. I had to continue talking about my point.
I give you a little V there.
No, we got. Yeah, and it's just those expectations are ruined. If he moves up to Moto, the most exciting thing he can do for me is ditch Moto3 and move up to Moto2, even though he's having a terrible season in Moto3 right now. Right, I need him to do something else. Yeah, well, exactly. I want to see.
Do you think it's that effect finally happening to you, Kev, where it's not all new and exciting, and you're losing because you used to be way more hardcore 2-3 years ago.
Dude, Moto3 I followed more closely than GP, almost jokingly. You know what I'm saying?
You'd wake up in the middle of the fucking night and text us.
Hell yeah, text you from Moto3. You see that shit, dog?
that shit on fucking DVR, man. I ain't gotta wake up.
Exactly. Don't ruin
spoil
it.
it. Shut up. Yeah, fucking Rob. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the weekend in general is a little like I respect Marc Marquez obviously for what he's able to do, and I've sort of said I don't dislike Marquez for who he is. I dislike the fact that he continues to stay on Repsol, right? Like that's the story that I don't like anymore. I would be the biggest Marquez fan in the world if he went to Ducati or KTM, and if he were to win on KTM, I'd fucking have a Marquez hat on the podcast tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like because I know that Marc Marquez is gonna win, there's like the excitement for Moto2 for me is holy shit. Maybe a Spaniard still won't win. Yes, you know what I mean. Like
we all gotta have our storylines.
We all gotta have the storyline, and that's it for me. But Moto2, I've yet to find that storyline. I mean, do you have a storyline for me, Rob? Can you sell it on me right now?
No, I don't. I haven't been watching Moto2 and Moto3 as much, not for the same reason, more because I've been cycling every Sunday morning, and it's really eaten into my motorcycle watching time.
Yeah,
I need to stop doing that.
Well, Kev,
and then I go get Vietnamese sandwiches afterwards and watch the race, and it's fucking amazing.
On me,
right? On Vietnamese baguettes.
Yes, of course.
Baguettes like the hot dogs.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many things to talk about. I could be like, oh, Bezecchi's the beast, but the actual beast and Naya Bastianini is not doing nearly as well. It's like it's like a club race right now. That's really what it is. It's a bunch of guys whose names are vaguely familiar on bikes with too many stickers to get us ready for the actual event. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, it's got to normalize, to your point, right? I mean, it's just there's been too much movement. Which that's what I'm saying, man. Part of the marketing machine and the way that they want this freaking circus to travel is not too much movement. And as much as I want more, Dorna wants as little as possible. They want very incremental change in the top class, and we've been getting more cycled through. It's a good thing as a spectator, but the lesser classes suffer because you don't recognize people.
Yeah, it is coming at the expense of Moto3 for sure.
Correct.
I mean, the names will develop and things could be more exciting next year, and we really just need to do our part and watch the races and kind of get into it. And that's the other thing too, Kev, we haven't been talking about Moto2 or Moto3 all like for about a year now. So let's get back into those lower classes a little bit more and build the excitement every way that we can. And I'll fucking start watching the races again.
Oh, you said that reluctantly, like, fuck, I guess I'll watch that. Like a chore.
It's just cycling is so helpful for motorcycle racing. Ugh.
Dude,
we're moving over to listener questions before we round this one out. So I've got 7 questions.
I don't want
to
round this one out. I weirdly feel like I want to keep going for a while.
We have 7 listener questions. You got plenty of time here. All right, number 1. Jeremy921 wants to know, will Sam Lowes ever win in Moto2 again?
No.
Let's look at his result. Oh, I thought that was going to be a little bit longer.
Ever? God. Maybe.
No.
This year? No.
13th. Real quick. DNF 13th, DNF 8th, 13th, DNF 9th, 5th.
That ain't balling, dog. That ain't balling.
That's not balling.
Not even sniffing. There's no.
That's not balling.
That is why the idea of Scott Redding going back to Moto2 was flawed as a motherfucker. You do not go back to Moto2 and do well. That class will eat you the fuck alive, son.
Hold on though. Hold on.
Once you go black,
once you go Moto2,
you never go back. No.
Right.
There is potential for mix-up next
Moto2,
year.
A win you ain't gonna do.
Almost.
Yeah, you don't want to get in that.
There's huge potential for mix-up next year. It could be the Tony Elias effect, where the one with the most expertise on that style of motorcycle is going to win it, even though he may not be the most talented rider in the class.
But
right?
Tony Elias was on Cassini Honda, an established team with good backing long term with a solid foundation. Sam Lowes is on like a weird first year, like my man fucking Jareth is talking about, like he's from India and he knows like that fucking sponsor is from some weird ass like random county in India. I mean, I'm not hating. I love India.
That's
don't
the
get
beer
me wrong.
sponsor in Jakarta.
They got like a weird Jakartan beer sponsor. No one's ever seen the team before. Like, I'm not even sure who sponsors them otherwise. Like, that Sam Lowe's is not set up to take next year by storm by being on a strange satellite KTM.
Never's pretty harsh, but it's never, dude. It's not happening.
Well, okay, but then so last part of this question though, then if Scott Redding comes back to Moto2, say for Mark VDS, or which he's not, but another quality team that has GP experience, can he do it? Can he actually win in Moto2 next year?
I think it's a bad idea. I love Scott. He's my fucking spirit animal. It's the worst idea ever, dude. You do not go back to your ex-girlfriend from high school. I've already explained this. You think it's going to be good. The only reason you thought the sex was good is because you were like a 16-year-old idiot who like anything wet was dope. But dude, you're 28 now or whatever. That is not the best. It's just because you had no point of reference is all I'm saying. That's the worst thing in the world is Scott to go back to Moto2. Go to fucking Yoshimura Suzuki, take Roger's ride. Go to fucking do not go back to Moto2, bro. That is where GP riders go to fucking die. Like, do not go back to Moto2. That's right. It's scrappy.
Well, okay. So,
all right.
So hold on.
Next question.
Hold on. You don't make millions of dollars and come back to fight those kids who are trying to do whatever it takes to get to GP. That's a good way to get fucked up.
Yep. He got to the show. You can't go back to AA ball, AAA ball against the guys who are hungry, who will do anything to get 1% more, interest in someone. Like
now, it would be conspiracy theory. Real quick, cool conspiracy theory. It would be cool if Bautista, Redding, and Carl actually went down there on decent rides, make Moto2 great again. That could be interesting. But
make Moto2 great.
I just think that Sam Lowe's can't win. He's not on the team to do it. And as Rob's point, a year where they get it right, who's going to get it right is Brad Binder on the factory team. Sam Lowe's might win a race, but it's not going to revitalize career. He peaked. The best thing that ever happened to Sam Lowe's, or I said the most important thing, was he proved to everyone what I've been saying for years is that contracts don't mean shit.
Yeah. And it's not like his experience in GP is amazing anyway. So he wasn't on a quality team at the time.
Kev, did I just sense that you're on the Brad Binder train now?
I'm stoked that Brad won. I really am. And not just stoked that a non-Spanish rider won, but South African. Like, look, if you ever go to Africa, no matter where you go in Africa, you see armies of small displacement bikes fucking everywhere. It's no different than going to Asia, Southeast Asia. You see armies of kids on these bikes. The bikes are in whatever way you can find, modified, personalized. They take they have what America doesn't have, which was armies of preteens and teens on 125 scooters who take dope identity in those things. You know what I mean? Who that's cool to be. So for a South African rider to win and do well, I really want Brad to win because I think that having personally traveled through Africa, sub-Saharan Africa a number of times, I think it's the greatest untapped market you can imagine. I think that if you could connect, I know Nigeria is about as far from South Africa as California is to New York, but you know what I mean? If not significantly farther.
It's a big continent. It's a big continent.
It's a big continent with the most countries. It's an amazing place. Go there, people. For reals, off topic, go there. And no matter what country you go to, it's a whole different world. But Brad Binder winning for me is an untapped market that could bring GP to a massive level. Like, Ev, you remember back in the day, the next Rossi is some kid in delivering pizzas in India, right? Like you talk about like the most talented kid out there is some guy who just doesn't have the opportunity. And if a South African rider, Brad Binder, can win, do well, and elevate that, if we can get back to Kyalami, if we can get back on that continent, I think that it's a potential that's even greater, in my opinion, than what you see in the investment in the Asia Cup, Southeast Asia right now. I have nothing but amazement for the fact that a South African is winning races, and I'm stoked on it.
There's definitely a potential growth market. So the answer is yes. So the answer is yes. He's on the Brad Binder train.
Yes, I want him to win more races.
And the original answer to will Sam Lowe's ever win is a unanimous no.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Sorry. If you're listening, Sam, sorry. Come over to MotoAmerica.
Yeah, we'd love to have you race in MotoAmerica. Revitalize him.
Where I'm going to be sitting behind the picnic bench and said Sam Lowe's won't win a race. Change my mind. You can change my mind by coming on the BrotoGP podcast with Robert, Kevin, and Everett and explain to me not only that you'll win a race, but that you will win a championship. Prove me wrong.
He should come back after winning it and just be like, "What up, bitches?" Like that'd be the whole interview. It'd be great.
Dude, we need that banner.
I will eat
Sonoma. But prove me wrong. We're gonna do it.
Prove
Kev.
me wrong. No, really. I'm moving on. Our second and third question. Hail the Pump King wants to know who takes the MV Agusta seat next year, and how does their experience with electronics in Superbike and Supersport impact their team, considering all the changes in Moto2. And then also in relation, Ricardo Roberto wants to know thoughts on the MV and who's going to be top next year with the mass exodus of fast guys. So a lot of MV talk here. If you haven't heard, MV Agusta is returning to Grand Prix motorcycle racing by joining the Moto2 class. They've released pictures with their
their actual motorcycles don't have their own engines, so you know.
Who makes their engines?
I don't think they do. I thought they were like
No, I'm pretty sure
in Superbike.
No, they're not Aprilias. They blow up even too often for that.
I think Dennis is going to ride for MV
Agusta. The MV Agusta is interesting, right? Because we wondered if a KTM would. We didn't wonder if they'd do well, but we wondered if they would actually give the level of investment to do well, considering they have to have a Honda engine, and Honda it has to actually say Honda on their swing arm, right? And next year they'll have to say Triumph. They'll have to have some sort of Triumph branding. So you wonder with MV Agusta basically using the Forward Racing team as their Trojan horse into Moto2, the level of investment they're getting. I guess it would wonder to me how much bang for your buck you get for Moto2 versus versus World Superbike. The number one thing I think about the MV Agusta entry right now is they very correctly made the air intake look exactly like their bike. So they're the headlight of the F4. So they're connecting their branding well, which makes me think it's serious for them as an endeavor. Long term, because they're already making branding cues and connecting it to what they want to do. That's very much a throwback to win on Sunday, sell on Monday type thing.
I mean,
it doesn't work.
And even if you just look at World Superbike, nobody here is really watching it. I was a huge fan. I'm barely watching it now, and even if I do watch it, I'm not even seeing a fucking MV Agusta on the screen ever. So what value is that from a TV rights perspective? Obviously representation in the paddock's even weaker because the attendance is lower. So they're like, well, if I'm going to spend the money, it might as well be in fucking Moto2. So
I actually think that the investment can be lower in Moto2 because they don't have to make the engine. They don't even have to maintain it. They don't have to make the electronics. They don't have to get really that much of a base setting in there. They just have to tune it. They have to hire their riders and then go around the paddock. Like Dorna subsidizes a large portion of the travel. They it's a smaller investment for them. It's more eyes on the motorcycle. It's more fans in the seats, less money, better return for marketing. And I think it's a good move for them. But have you guys heard if there's anyone slotted for that ride for next year? I haven't heard any news on it.
I'm going to go with Mattia Pacini, wild card.
I'm not sure I don't think it's locked up yet, but I'm not as convinced as Rob is of the level of investment they really have in this thing.
Oh no, I'm not saying their investment is going to be higher. I just think that they are investing less into Moto2 than they need to in World Superbike.
And I was going to say, look at the big brains on Rob. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
World
floundering in World Superbike. It's
right. It's just pointless. It's dumb.
It is pointless. It's not working. It's dumb. The idea of I don't think production racing feeds the niche that it used to anymore, and I think that's what World Superbike has to figure out. What are they going to do as a series based on bikes that are built and sold to the general public? The Moto2 team, I think, is great. It brings a level of prestige to Moto2 that will continue to build it. And I think if you see, other than that talent exodus, our caller or our fan mentioned, I think what you'll see is a continued growth of the series from different manufacturers. KTM entered, and they proved that running a separate, a Honda engine in your own frame is still doable, and it's a proof of concept for the branding. You can run a bike in which doesn't actually have your engine in it and still have that be a successful branding exercise if you win races, do well, and all of that. MV Agusta, their entry into Moto2 next year, for me, is the longevity of Moto2 in the future, because we all, there was a time and place where all of the teams had investment. You saw TZ250s and all that stuff. I want to see continued investment and growth and manufacturer parity in Moto2. And it's got to be more than just obscure chassis manufacturers from Switzerland and shit, right? It's got to be like name brand marquee teams.
So hold on, Ev. That definitely brings in more money, and has better paying rides and better supported teams. I just worry though if someone like Honda or Yamaha were to come in and they would dominate, they raise the level too far, and then they make it kind of maybe not incapable for Kalex to be able to compete, but just make it more difficult for them. Like, I don't want to see that happen. Like, I don't want to see World Superbike where Cowie invests far and away more than all the other teams, and we have this huge gap between the top team and the bottom team. Like, I don't want to see that.
I'm just thinking, I think the same thing, because I was gonna have my conspiracy theory be, what if Dorna all along wanted World Superbike to start porting all the rides over to the GP series in whatever form fashion, right? Take the money and extract it out, put it over to GP. But they already do that, man, because Kalex and the chassis over there, it's a fixed market, or it has been, with the exception of KTM coming back now, right? I mean, the Suter was dominant for years, and then it's gone. Now the Kalex, it's 80% of the grid. So,
but the main thing I have to say that I was bringing up is that you're talking about Suter, you're talking about Kalex, you're talking about these niche, small, esoteric names, brands. KTM has proven that Moto2 is a successful, or I say a potential branding exercise for your marquee, despite the fact that you're required to run a different manufacturer's engine. It still works what it's supposed to do. Farm talent, raise the level of your brand, give your sponsors another avenue for exposure, and all of that. MV Agusta needs to be successful, because if MV Agusta is successful in this, where the fuck is Aprilia in Moto2? Where is Ducati in Moto3, Moto2? I believe, right. That what I'm saying is, if MV Agusta does it, they prove that anyone can do it.
I'm worried if they do.
KTM already proved it, and they're doing exactly what you're saying, Kev, which is they've opened the door up for everyone else to think they can do it, and it's going to be what Rob's saying, which is going to be an arms race of all the obscure factories who can use an alternate engine. You won't get the Cowies, you won't get the Yamahas, you won't get the Hondas, and you won't get the Suzukis because of pride. Japanese pride won't let them do that shit. But Aprilia has ran Rotex engines, and fucking, I'm pretty sure
RSV1000R
source other engines. So those guys don't give a shit, and they're going to capitalize on that Moto2 market.
It's, who else doesn't give a shit about all those engines and stuff? The fans.
No. Who cares?
No, I've been saying it. I've been saying it for years that the fans that actually care what motor is in the motorcycle, or what suspension is on the bike, or who wants to see the unobtainium, they're the fanatics. They're the tiny little demographic, right? They're Josh Herron, when he posted a picture of that custom swing arm and that custom belly pan, tons of likes. He plugged it. It was great. It was amazing, but it was still a small proportion of the people that watch MotoAmerica on television. And you can't see that shit from TV anyway. No. Right? But what can you see on the side of the Red Bull KTM Moto2 bike?
Red Bull.
Massive Red Bull. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, Kev, no, I totally agree that KTM was a proof of concept, and it definitely, I would like it to happen, but I don't want to see it go that far, right? Let's stop at Ducati. And no, I don't want Cowie, Yamaha, Suzuki, or Honda in Moto2.
It should be
basically. Manufacturer's arm race is better for me in terms of potential downside than 2015 only Calexes on the grid.
What if they did a percentage of revenue is what you could spend on your team? Like, hey, Honda, you have the most. It's like you can only spend X. They have the least. They can only spend Y.
You mean no?
Yeah,
So just do a price cap. Just do a price cap. I mean, the nice thing is, right, is there already are cost-cutting regulations in place. You know, like the Calyx can't sell the chassis for an exorbitant amount. I think there are more regulations in Moto3. No, not claiming rules.
Oh, they haven't been right?
There are more regulations in Moto3 because Honda was straight up building a bike and selling it at a loss and charging people for the maintenance and or repair parts or rebuild parts were 3 times the price they needed to be. Right? Like if there are to quell my fears, like those regulations could come over into Moto2 and it would probably fix it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we have a long way to go because we still have to get through 2019 and see what's actually going on. Let's finish out this question. I'll take this last part here. How does MV Agusta's experience with electronics in Superbike and Supersport impact their team considering the Moto2 electronics? I'm going to go with not at all because their electronics in Superbike seem to suck really bad. Yeah, they're not. They are a factory, so they can probably learn faster because they have more expertise, maybe. But I mean, we've heard now this season that MV Agusta Racing is actually separate from the factory anyway. They're not really the factory that you're thinking of, like Kawasaki and World Superbike or Honda and Yamaha and GP. It's different. I don't think it'll matter. They're still going to struggle next season. All right, moving on. Our next question. Let's do this one. All right. If Peco, Oliveira, Mir were all on the same MotoGP bike, who do you think would take home the win? They actually said the gold. That's from MotoGP Sillies on Instagram.
Who wants to go first?
Peco, Oliveira, and Mir. Ev, I'm making you go first.
Wait, I'm sorry. I was reading something. What?
If Peco, Oliveira, and Mir were on the same GP bike,
I'm gonna have to go with Oliveira, even though it kills me to say that.
Damn.
Obviously, I'm the biggest fan of Peco, but Oliveira's poor qualifying to significant results shows me that when the when the flag drops, he's a racer's racer. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy who will ride hard regardless of his position. He will make heavy passes. He will fly through. I just feel like Oliveira has shown flashes of brilliance that if I were to say, okay, all 3 of these guys are on the same bike, this guy's gonna, be able to pull the final percentage out. Pecco's amazing, and I think he's gonna win the title this year. And I obviously think he should be factory Ducati to an extent. Mir's amazing too, his ability to come up. But there's a certain thing I see in Oliveira and KTM with when he was in Moto3 with how many races he won. His outright speed on the racetrack, on not like time trials, not Casey Stoner-esque, not Danny Pedrosa, but like his outright ability to race you is higher than the other 2 guys. He's a racer's racer. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a fucking dogfighter. He went to Miramar. He joined Top Gun.
Iceman, the real Iceman.
I'm gonna take Peco on this one. I think that if you put him on a GP bike, he will take the Jorge Lorenzo sort of tactic and essentially just qualify on pole and pull away at the front of the race. We might not like it, but it might not be as entertaining as Oliveira coming through the field. But I think that he beats Oliveira, 6 out of 10 times. And then Mir, I'm not entirely. I think he's just tiny bit step below. All right, Ev, why are you taking Mir?
I'll take Mir just to be the odd man out. I think back to what Kev was saying. I mean, he's already shown he's got it. We just got to get him developed a little bit more, a little more maturity.
The question I have for Mir when it comes to how good he is the one thing Mir has that you could say Peco or Miguel don't, is Mir has had the best team every time he's moved. So he goes to the Moto3 team, the Leopard team, the team that sort of like famously, remember Danny Kent's crew chief had like a weird setup that was opposite of all the other Hondas and no one wanted to listen to him. And then all of a sudden when they all started doing it, Kent famously stopped winning. And then he moves to the Mark VDS team, which is obviously on the team on the grid right now, the most experienced team, the team that's won championships multiple times, the team that's been there since, for years. We've talked about Moto2 by being a spec class means whatever team has the most experience is able to get that last 2% that the other guys just don't know how to get yet. So Mir has done that on the Leopard, Honda, and then he's done it on the Honda with Mark VDS. What we've never seen Mir do is override a situation, to take it himself, like we talked about Jordan, right? There was times when Jordan simply took the inbound and he was going to score on his own, regardless of the defense. What we have seen with Miguel and what we have seen with Peco is times when they will simply override the machinery they have and do that against clearly superior teams and machinery and still win or still do well or still make up for mistakes. And I haven't seen Mir do that yet, but I have seen the other two.
Well, and that's the thing that we could argue is holding Mir back from those 2 wins that we think he might get later in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Is he not actually learning what you need to, like there's a big running joke that everyone that rode the Mahindra apparently is a prodigy because they all had to learn some kind of specific thing that the Mahindra taught them that enables them to later on learn to adapt in a certain way. I don't know with Mir, the Leopard, despite, laundering money left and right and being a clearly criminal organization, and that's not a liable question at all. Anyway, should reform. It's said only for entertainment purposes. Do not sue me or call me.
Apparently you can buy their energy drinks and get them shipped to the United States for about $27 a piece.
About $7. My man Bell did that.
Give me like 10 of those.
They're weirdly good. They're weirdly good.
I still
had
need
3.
one.
A fan sent me 3, and I'll be forever in his debt.
All right, Kev.
I guess
you're losing.
I'm a big fan of Mir, but what I haven't seen on the question is I haven't seen his ability to overcome in a way that I've seen the other 2. So it's hard for me to pick Mir. I'm gonna go ahead.
He's fresh. He's fresh talent.
He's fresh, no doubt.
Ev is he's just sad that you shot his point down with made other points. All right, no, moving on. Justin YZFR6 wants to know, what do you think about the triples coming into Moto2, replacing the Hondas, and will we see slower lap times or even more mechanical DNFs? I'm going to take the second part right now. Supposedly, they're about 1.5 seconds faster. The Honda CBR engines are not exactly known for being a strong motor.
Rob,
what?
The correct word is allegedly.
Allegedly. What did I say?
You said supposedly.
Oh, supposedly. Sorry, allegedly. Allegedly.
Gotta get your lawyer to speak up. Call Sai, right? He'll help you out.
Call Sai. He'll help me with my lawyer speak. No, so the Triumph 765 supposedly, allegedly makes about 135 horsepower, which is probably 10 to 15 more than the Honda. And huh?
And they have more torque, right?
Yes, exactly. They should have more grunt off the corner. They should have more torque. They should be faster. It might just be straightaways. It might just be grunt out of the corner. They probably won't up their corner speeds. Actually, they might a little bit because of the new electronics. The second part of that, will we see even more mechanical DNFs? I'm going with yes. It's Absolutely. Not a Honda.
Yeah, I think that's a given.
They'll detune them to keep them stable, right?
Yeah, but
it's still a Triumph.
It's still a Triumph. It's still a massive undertaking. It's still their first year. I'd be surprised if we didn't see more, because this is obviously a number of years deep into Honda. They have that engine dial that's going to be, obviously, as you do a spec class competition, the lack of competition means you want to lower your investment because you don't have the competition. So Honda over the years eventually becomes like, let's just make this thing more and more reliable, less and less, hassle, all that stuff. A Triumph's going to come into a fuck situation, which is a bunch of kids looking to make a name for themselves at any means necessary and overriding those bikes as much as possible. They're going to fuck engines up left or right. I think we're going to see a lot of high profile DNFs. I think you're going to, and this isn't hating on Triumph, I think it's an undertaking that would stress any manufacturer. You know what I'm saying?
It's the same thing we see from the tire manufacturers too, right? It's a thankless environment. When stuff goes good, they're just like, oh yeah, it was supposed to. And when stuff goes wrong, they're like, what the hell are you doing?
What those riders do to my tires?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Right. I think your Triumph is entering into a thankless situation with a bunch of kids who are looking for the first year. Like everyone knows the first year is when you can make your name because you might get lucky. You might catch lightning in a bottle. And I think that you're going to see a variety of pretty hilarious engine failures or issues in qualifying too.
They're gonna do some funny stuff with the electronics and get the thing to over rev on corner entry, and they're just gonna blow up all over the place. It'll be nuts. No, real other quick. Part of the question though. Other part of the question, Ev. What do you actually think about the triple though? Like, are you excited to hear that more throaty exhaust note and not have just a 600 Super Sport race anymore?
Whatever. I'm just. Why is Triumph even doing this? I mean, that's what.
Really? That's what I get.
I'm literally sitting here thinking, why does Triumph give a fuck? Who fucking cares about Triumph? Like, why did they even let that happen? But anyway,
they are putting that motor in a street bike, and you know it's going to sell better. I mean, it didn't really help out Honda because they've been making that motor since 2007.
All right, you gonna race?
It was like an F3 engine. You know what I'm saying? Like those things secretly had carburetors and stuff. You know, like
you're gonna race
those are 2 steps away from bold new graphics on the end side of that thing.
Yeah, Rob, are you gonna race one?
No, Triumph 7s. Yes, actually, if I'm hired to race Moto2 in a national series or even in international, I will definitely race it.
If that's a big if there, man. Don't quit.
Well, I gotta be hired. Like, I don't have $100,000 to throw down for a Moto2 bike to and then fly over to Spain to get beat by a bunch of little Spanish kids over there. Like, goddamn.
It's just kind of a buzzkill that Triumph's supplying engines, but whatever.
No, it's not.
I wish they.
It's not a buzzkill.
I wish they.
To answer the question, am I excited for the triple? I suppose it's interesting. I mean, we've all again
different.
If one thing I've talked about is new storylines, I suppose the triple interests me. I wonder, we've talked about over the years, and certainly journalists have, of whether the Moto2 is the correct training ground for MotoGP. And you wonder if the step from a 250, single cylinder engine to a 600cc engine is the correct step or not. By just simply being different with a different motor, I'm interested. I'm interested to see how it goes, how guys adapt, and how the first couple of champions do, because obviously Moto2 hasn't brought us the championship contenders in the way that 250 did sort of at the end of its, the last 10 or 15 years.
So your
answer except for Ayama.
His answer is
I'm going
Rob, because everything he just said meant it could have been any engine change and he'd be happy.
That's true. And if you decide to blame like any new Moto2 champion doing good in MotoGP, I'm going to blame it on the electronics and not the motor.
Yeah. Triumph just got bamboozled.
Oh,
right.
All right. Last question. All right. This one's a great hypothetical for you. If Agostini, Rossi, Marquez, and God got into a fight on a Moto2 bike, who would win? I don't think they mean like road rash, like actual like chains fight.
God, Agostini,
Rossi, and Marquez were racing in a battle on a Moto2 bike. Who would win?
Marquez.
Trick question. A, God doesn't exist. B, it's actually Valentino Rossi is God.
Damn it! I was going to say
waiting for it. Yeah, I was waiting.
It's a difficult one because the hypothetical is interesting, because what Marc Marquez has is an innate ability to ride the front tire in a level that other people can't currently. But he's able to exploit that because of the current bikes. I don't necessarily think that if you slapped Marc Marquez on a 500cc bike that he'd be that much better. It's like Casey Stoner on the Ducati was significantly better because he could exploit something no one else could. But when you put him on the Honda, while he did win the title and then win races, he wasn't as much better as Danny Pedrosa as he was Nicky Hayden, right? Or Marco Melandri. So the question really depends on what bike if you put him on. I mean, I think if you put him on a 500cc bike or a lower traction control bike, I think Valentino wins because of his tactics. But I think if you put them on a bike where Marquez can exploit an ability that he has that no one else has, which is 1,000cc, sophisticated electrical environment, he simply has an ability that no one else has shown to even be able to touch.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that when he was racing in Moto2, no one else could ride the Suter chassis that he won handily with. And yeah, but if we're talking about, I mean, I guess the question did not specify if they all got individual Moto2 bikes or if they were on their like one tailor-made for them.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Rossi as well. We can't take Ago
Rossi
because
never rode a Moto2 bike.
I have an answer for you.
Don't care. He probably rides them all the time at Misano.
Yeah, he rides R6s around Misano all the time. Here's my way to respond to you, Ev, and I think this is going to diplomatically go between. Oh, we lost Ev. This is going to diplomatically go between the Rossi Valentino right. I'm talking, so just be shush. So I think that if you put them on bikes specifically tailor-made for their style, it's hard to beat Marquez because he has a style that no one else can replicate, which is that ability to slide and lose the front end and be perfectly fine with it that simply no one else has really ever shown. So if we were to put them on bikes specifically tailored to their riding style, Marquez can get more out of a bike specifically, just like Casey Stoner. Right, Casey Stoner specifically tailored to him is going to beat it. But if you put them on a same bike with similar attributes, I start to question whether Valentino can win on a wider variety of bikes. But that if you give Marquez that one bike that he can really take advantage of, it's going to be a bad time for anyone else but Marquez.
But Marquez fucking beat the shit out of people in Moto2. What do you mean?
No, he didn't. He was fat. Like, he lost to plenty of racers in Moto2.
He lost to Pole and to Luthi a bunch. Now, he was the best of that season, but there was guys who beat him who went on to do very little.
Yeah, he lost to Iannone a bunch of times in Moto2.
All the time.
Right? Marquez was fallible in Moto2, whereas, I mean, obviously we've never seen Rossi in that class.
That's a perfect term. In Moto2, he was the best but fallible. But look at the fucking Twitter highlights of GP. Right now, on a good Honda, he's damn near infallible. He does things that you're not supposed to be able to do.
And all the other riders agree.
For him to be able to do that, and they all agree. Whereas what Valentino was able to do was continually win on a wide variety of bikes, sometimes being infallible, sometimes not, sometimes squeaking by. In 2009, he won the title with 5 races. Whereas in 2008, he won with like 9 race wins, right? Like
Ev has been counting statistics while you've been talking. I've been seeing it.
Go, Ev.
You got 30 seconds, and then we're closing this one out.
The year of, I gotta scroll up now. I'm all fucked up. I think it was 2011 Grand Prix.
Just wasting time.
He lost to, what's his fucking name? German guy. Stefan Brattle. And the reason
that was 2011. Then he won the title in 2012.
That's what I just said. 2011.
Okay.
And the reason is he retired 21st, first, second, retired, first, second, third DNS withdrew. Dude just fucking still rode over his head. All I'm saying is he's still a fucking dominant rider.
He rode over his head, didn't win the title, and once he was given a bike that allowed him to ride to his own level, he dominates. I'm not trying to hate everybody. What I'm saying is if he's given the ability to take imagine if I asked you if two guys were going to sword fight and one was an Olympic fencer, but I said have a broadsword, he's probably still going to win, but not in the same level of total dominance if you handed him like a fucking Olympic fencing saber. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a foil, excuse me. It's totally different. But Marquez has an ability to extract a level of grip and traction and turning from a front tire that no one else seems to show. But if you stick him on a bike where the front tire isn't that great or the front end isn't that well, I'm not sure he's going to do it in the same way. He probably can still win and do well, but he's not the transcendent talent. And his Moto2 years, I think, prove that.
Dude,
what if we all put him on Pirellis? Ooh.
Right.
Oh, man.
What if we stuck them all on bikes with terrible front tires but really good rear tires? Maybe he can't exploit his particular talent.
Grom race is the obvious solution here.
Yeah,
right? It's easy to organize. We just got to completely stock. Maybe they get to change the preload or something in the front end, and that's about it.
Yeah. So
all right, everyone.
Hold on. This is the put this on the BrotoGP After Dark docket, Kev.
Yes.
Who is the greatest of all time? And this feeds into that fucking that debate, because I'm looking at these stats and the dude's a fucking stud in Moto2 even.
I'm sure Steve W41 was trying to go for a GOAT conversation with this question, but it's not going to happen. Beating someone on a Moto2 bike doesn't necessarily make you the GOAT. There's a lot more stuff that goes into being the GOAT, like your entire career, not just one hypothetical race on a Moto2 bike. So we're not going there.
Stats about, dude.
Oh, Marquez, no, I did. But we do all agree.
Marquez is going to crush all the records.
The real GOAT, when this is all said and done, is going to be Jorge Lorenzo, and we're all going to hate it. Jorge Lorenzo is going to win the title in 2020.
Yeah.
And I love how it's so late. It sounds like he's sick now.
And he's going to win the title, and he's going to win it. And what he's going to be able to say is, I beat Valentino in equal machinery in his prime. I beat Marquez in his prime on a Yamaha, and then I beat him again in his prime on a Honda. I also won a title on 2 different manufacturers, and I won races on 3 different manufacturers. I'm telling you guys, as much as we hate it and don't want to admit it, the greatest of all time is gonna fucking unfortunately potentially be Lorenzo. It's gonna be
the prophecy.
Hey,
and that's why my voice
this is what I think about.
Brutal.
All right, everyone. Episode 100 went pretty damn long for us having only the middle and lower class to talk about. Yeah, that's freaking amazing. Bruno is coming up this weekend, so we will have another MotoGP race to hit you with. We know that World Superbike isn't racing for another 3 months, so we will never talk about them ever again. And yeah, thanks for listening. Like, share, and subscribe this video. Share this video, and subscribe to our channel if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on iTunes, Google Play, or now Spotify, please tell all your friends. Thanks for listening. Check our website sometime soon for more developments on t-shirts. That'll happen again. And yeah, call Riders Law if you need any legal help. All right, everyone. Peace. Later.